come through officially this week that the season's been curtailed. I guess it's kind of a funny one for you for the beginning, your first season with us being, I think it's 11 competitive games, so it's hard to take a judgment on it, but how did you feel about those 11 that you played?
I thought we were okay. I learnt a lot. I learnt a lot about the players, learnt a lot about what I need to do differently and what the coaching team needs to do differently. So in some ways it was a bit of a free hit and kind of a good lesson, but disappointing to have so little football. 9 months in, to have played 11 games is disappointing, and a lot of our players have missed out on a lot of learning this year. One of the things I was keen last year was that we keep Andy Keogh, Steve Mason, Ben Richardson, and the young lads learn from them, and it's a season that they're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So a bit of a disappointing end, but understandable in the circumstances.
Yeah. And then obviously looking ahead to what hopefully is next season, there's a lot of prep going into it. Do you start prepping for that now?
So the good thing about the official curtailment, you can start thinking about next season. You can start prepping. We're thinking already about playing side of things. We'll keep most of the squad together, but there are probably 4 or 5 players I want to bring in. I think we've got a bit of a gap in lads with a bit more experience at this level. Lads maybe in the mid-20s, so that's something we're looking to fill in a few positions. And we can start now in earnest moving on with some of that, whereas normally you're waiting to May. And we're hoping to get a couple of games in April when we can, behind closed doors, but at least lets us look at a few players and gives the lads a bit of football that they've just missed.
Yeah. Is there anyone who definitely is said they're not going to be here next season, or is that something that we're not going to talk about yet?
No, none of the players have said they won't be here next season. And the reason we're getting back together in April, as much as anything, is to have a look at the players, see how they've done under lockdown, and have some of those conversations around what they might want to be, where see them fitting into our plans, and there won't be any movement on the player front really until May, June, as we start to think about pre-season.
And then I guess from your point of view, the one that I sort of really wanted to ask about was it's difficult. I think everyone will acknowledge it's a really difficult time for everyone, not just in terms of football, but as people and as someone, as a manager in charge of a set of people. How have you worked in lockdown? How have you been able to keep in touch with people, and how do you check up on people? Or do you check up and what you do with those sets?
I do, and probably not as much during this lockdown as I did probably in previous lockdowns, and there were lots of reasons for that. I think partly because I was very busy. It's the busiest time for me at work, so working very long days and kind of focused on that. I'll be honest, January was a rubbish month for me. I just felt really flat, very busy at work, nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
But as we've started to come through February and you're starting to get more good news, I've been in the players' chats, phoned a few players, started to speak to players again, and gauge where they are, do the odd check-in with them. And I think everybody's been the same, just feeling a bit flat and deflated for the last few months.
Yeah.
But hopefully now, and you can see this in the chats, people are feeling much more optimistic. Really looking forward to getting back to doing a bit of training, really looking forward to a couple of games, and just starting to build a bit more team spirit. I do think one of the big things we missed out on last year because of all the circumstances was building a strong team spirit. It was 18 lads largely thrown together. Many of them didn't really know each other, or they knew 1 or 2 lads from other things. And we didn't have those nights out, those events that you would normally have that pulls that squad together. And you see it in the group chat. It's the quietest group chat I've ever been involved in football. There's virtually nothing goes in it. Wow. It's me posting we're training on day X and a load of thumbs up. There's none of the jokes and the ribbing and all that kind of thing just isn't there yet. And if we can get our lads together and as we come through the summer start to build that team spirit, I think that will put us in a much better place for next season.
I guess the same question as well then for you obviously your coaching staff. You've got quite a decent close-knit coaching staff. Is that similar with them, keeping in touch with them over lockdown and making sure everyone's right?
So with the coaching staff, probably speak to them much more. So certainly Lee and Alex, there's a group chat, and most days there was some messages going in there. There's a wider one with Jack and Jimmy and Eve, and we kind of post in there semi regularly. I had to drop the odd message or phone call through to them as well. So there is much more activity, and I think that's because we work so much more closer together and the relationships are a little bit more long-standing. But even that one's quiet. There's only so much you can say when you're in January. Nobody's been anywhere. Nobody's done anything. What have you done today? Oh, well, I've worked from home and I've walked to my couch and watched Netflix.
Yeah.
So everything was a bit in January, just a bit quiet. But you can see the enthusiasm coming back in now, and the regularity of the messages and the tone of the conversation has changed, and There's a lot of things being planned. So we're looking forward to taking advantage of having a long lead into a pre-season when we know what we know what we want to change from last year and what we want to do better.
Okay. Next season, I don't think anyone really knows what next season looks like in two ways. Whether it's going to be a full season, who's going to be in the league next season, because obviously there's a restructure that could happen. How do you see next season looking overall? But what's your, I guess, what do you see as a successful season next season?
So I think the restructure will happen. I honestly do. I think there is so much sentiment behind that, and so many reasons for having the restructure. I think it'll be forced through this summer, and quite how you do that from a who do you promote when there's no playing records to go off. And I suspect the reason we haven't known about it already is that the FA are trying to navigate through some of the legal repercussions of promoting teams and not promoting teams and making sure they're not sued. But I think the restructure will happen. I think that will give us some different teams to play, which will make things a bit interesting. I expect Marine to win the league next year. I'll put that out there straight away. They were a good side this year, and they're only going to get better with the publicity they've had. I think they'll get a better fan following as a result of it. They've got money in the bank, and then there were one or two other teams you'd expect to be up there again. Clitheroe, Workington were both making big statements. Ramsbottom have been knocking on the door for a couple of years. I think it would be foolish to think we're going to go and compete with them. We haven't got we've had to cut our cloth, and we're looking at a 3 to 5 year business plan here and a model that we're building. I think we've got to stick to our guns on that and continue with it. So I think we've got to give our young players time to develop, add in the sprinkling of experience that we need that I thought was missing last year, and look to be competitive, look to be top half and around and about it, but look for a cup run again. I think the cup run makes a real difference, and if we can have another FA Cup run, maybe do a little bit better than last season, give the lads some experience and bring them on so that we're then building for the season after, when who knows what will happen, but I suspect a couple of the big spenders will have moved out of the league at that stage. Some budgets will have changed, and I think we can then put ourselves in a pretty strong place then to look for promotion in a couple of years.
Do you see it's just about its longevity? It's about making sure we've still got a club here in 2 years' time, as opposed to going after something for next season.
That's got to be number one. It's got to be self-sustaining, and because of the decisions we made last summer, where we weren't reliant on secondary income and tertiary income, we're in a position where we now come out of it pretty unscathed out of a tough 12 months. And I don't think we can then just rip that up and change the philosophy. I think we've now got the bedrock on which we can build a really successful business plan, a self-sustaining football club, to then bring us success on the pitch. I don't think having a smaller budget necessarily means you can't have quality on the pitch. I think it just means we have to do it in a different way, and we have to look to unearth some of the local, the local talent lads who have kind of flown under the radar, and we've got a few of those here already. There's a couple more to add, bit of experience to come in. I think it gives you a really competitive team at this level. Add to that a team spirit that we want to build, which hopefully we can do when restrictions lift.
Yeah.
You can go a long way. So it's not about not wanting to be successful. It's about being realistic.
Cool. Thank you.